So I've got 139, and I was just going to give you guys a mic check if there's somebody that can. Yep. Remote 139. I'm talking, getting you a mic check. Let me know if this is good. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Standing in with Scott Irving, why he's here on a weekend. All set? Thank you. None of that happened in the WTSP work.
You okay there? Good afternoon. Nice to see you all back here in the chambers. As you can see, some things have changed. I think the council's getting ready to come back in person, and when they do, be appropriately distanced. So we'll look forward to seeing the council back when they're ready. For those of you that may recall, we were doing weekly briefings for quite a while. Back in July, we said we would move them monthly, so we're just a little over a month since our last update. And again, happy to be back with you all. So the purpose is a general update on a number of areas of focus. Want to acknowledge that without our table here, she's not right next to me, but Deputy Mayor Owens is right in front of me, and you'll be hearing from her later. And I do want to wish her a happy birthday. She celebrated her birthday yesterday and is nice enough to be here with us today. I want to thank the council for continuing to allow us to use the chambers. And before I get started to talk about the briefing and go through the agenda, I do want to acknowledge the officer-involved shooting last night. As has been made public, a call came in at around 12:44 a.m. This morning. A call came in as a man with a gun on the corner of James and State at the Sunoco gas station. Officers arrived on the scene and did indeed encounter a man with a gun. During the encounter, 2 officers fired their weapons. The individual was struck at least once and was pronounced at the scene. The gun that was initially reported was recovered at the scene. I don't have any additional information to share at this point, but Chief Buckner has scheduled a 3 p.m. press conference where he will have additional information to share. As you can imagine, the investigation is active and ongoing. I was in touch with Chief Buckner shortly after the incident early this morning and have been in touch with him throughout. So he's going to take this additional time, make sure he has as much information to share as possible, and we will share that again next at the 3 p.m. briefing from the chief, and thereafter as necessary. I just want to acknowledge that a man lost his life this morning, and that's a tragedy, no matter what the circumstances. So my thoughts are with his family at this time, and certainly with the officers and their families that were involved last night. Just a tragedy. There's no better explanation for it. With that, just to cover the agenda, we'll give our update on COVID-19 as we typically do, provide some updates on city services and city initiatives. We'll give an update on our crime statistics from COMPSTAT. Deputy Mayor will provide an update on our police reform agenda and the progress we're making there. We'll talk about our parking violation amnesty program, which is about to kick off, and end with an update on our Adopt-A-Block program, and then open it up to questions. So on COVID, overall the news is relatively good. As you can see in the image behind me, we continue to monitor it. What the image shows is that our active cases in the city of Syracuse has stayed relatively consistent over the past 2 weeks. As of yesterday, we were at 52 active cases citywide, which is, again, a relatively good number, and it's been steady. Overall, total number of cases in the city, 1,949. That's through the course of the pandemic. Of those, we have 1,784 recoveries. So by percentage, recoveries just about doubled new cases. I want to remind everyone that there is testing today at the Syracuse Community Health Center, and that will go till 5 o'clock, and then it will resume on Monday. I want to remind everyone of the state's early warning monitoring, their dashboard that they update on a daily basis. This is something that we keep a close eye on. What you see is, again, similar to the number of active cases, our percent positive tests, our infection rate is staying below 1%. It's been consistently under 1% for about 6 weeks. So that's good, steady progress, and we want to continue that. We'll also just want to update everyone on business affirmations as we continue through the reopening process. At last count, we were at about 741 business affirmations in the city of Syracuse, countywide 1,620. We've had some new dashboards pop up since last time we spoke. What you're looking at now is the Syracuse University COVID-19 dashboard, which is available to the public at syracuse.edu/COVID-dashboard, and that's available to the public at any time. Overall, we're about 3 weeks into bringing students back at Syracuse University and Lemoyne. We've worked very hard with those institutions and other institutions to make sure that the return to campus has gone smoothly and safely, and by and large it has. As we know, and this is not consistent across all institutions of higher education, but here locally with Syracuse University and Lemoyne, there was comprehensive testing of students before they came onto campus and also when they arrived on campus. And again, so far the results are positive. You can see on the dashboard total cases at SU as of Wednesday were 9. The blue line that you see behind me is the recovery line. There was some recent news about traces of COVID coming up in wastewater sampling. That's another example of something that we're doing here in our community, but not everyone is doing, and it's doing what we hoped it would do, which was to give us early warning of presence of the virus. So the university did have some traces come up in sampling wastewater from Ernie Davis Hall. The residents of the dorm are quarantining while they await results of additional testing. So glad that that is working as we expected it would. At Lemoyne, with about 1,700 tests back, we have 1 active case and 1 case recovered. So again, really good numbers at Lemoyne. I want to credit the institutions and the students for their very good work. And as we go into another holiday weekend, just encourage everyone to maintain your diligence, maintain your safety, social distancing, washing hands, following state guidance on public gatherings, and whenever necessary, get tested. I also want to acknowledge the partnership of both SU and Lemoyne above and beyond just returning students to campus, but also looking at ways in which they can support the community beyond that. Yesterday we announced a partnership with Syracuse University that involves training teachers for teaching in this new COVID environment, and we're very appreciative of that. Syracuse School District is very appreciative as well, and we announced last week a partnership with Lemoyne around providing internships, giving students productive ways to add value to the community. We have some Lemoyne interns here at the City of Syracuse, Onondaga County does, and we encourage local employers to engage with Lemoyne to benefit from that program. As a reminder, since the last time we had a briefing, we did announce our spending reductions. I had talked week after week about where we were headed without federal aid, and unfortunately we had to take a significant step that I hoped we wouldn't have to take to account for the significant revenue loss that we continue to experience as a direct result of COVID and lack of federal action. So we announced a $18.1 million spending reduction plan. We are beginning phases of operational cuts in procurement and services next week. Again, some examples. No more road restriping from DPW, reductions in overtime that we will all see and feel, and a number of other significant negative impacts to city operations and to city staff, specifically to city residents, to our people. We are furloughing over 400 city employees through this spending contingency plan. I do not take that lightly. That's going to have a direct impact on those individuals and on the services that we provide, and therefore our entire community. I just want to reiterate that the only way that we can turn this current fiscal situation around in the short term is through federal aid. And while I've been incredibly disappointed by the lack of action in Washington, I do hold out hope that as we see more and more communities impacted, that eventually our representatives in Washington, and specifically in the Senate and the Senate majority, will see the light and step up and do the right thing. On a more positive note, as we continue to evaluate city services, we are looking for ways to bring new services to continue to reopen city facilities. And I'm pleased to announce that we are going to be reopening Meachem Ice Rink. We have a very active and passionate hockey community in Syracuse and Central New York. Of course, we had our state champs, the Syracuse Cougars, not too long ago, and we were able to work with them and with the Parks Department, and thanks to the leadership of the Parks Department, figure out a way forward to make sure that the facility is used in a safe way. This facility has ice year-round anyways. The picture behind me is what the ice looked like yesterday, and pretty soon we'll have people back on it. The good news is we through the good work of the Parks Department, have figured out a way to reopen it in a revenue positive way for the city of Syracuse. So that's an added bonus to the additional reuse. Again, there's going to be multiple sports organizations using it, consistent with New York State and USA Hockey guidance. The hockey will be limited to drills and clinics, but again, we're excited to have that reopened. If you're interested in using it, you can call the Parks Department at 315-473-4330. So great job to the Parks team for getting Meachem back open. Another positive development from in the midst of the pandemic is our outdoor dining in Armory Square. It's been a huge success. I've taken my family out on a couple of occasions now. We have decided, given the positive feedback we've received from both businesses and patrons, that we're going to extend the program of closing the 100 and 200 blocks of Walton on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays through the end of September. And we're going to continue to reevaluate not only in Armory, but in other areas where we can do this, and again, bring people back out into our community in safe ways, and in doing so, support our critical local business community. Great job, again, team effort between multiple city departments, DPW, Permit Office, SPD, SFD, and of course our partners, our business partners, as well as the Downtown Committee. A true team effort, and by all accounts, great success. We've talked a little bit about our parking violation amnesty program, but I just want to bring everyone's attention back to it because it starts on Tuesday. We worked with the Common Council. We announced the amnesty program. It's the first time we've done it in a long time. But it starts on Tuesday, September 8th, and goes through September 25th. And there are a few of these opportunities where it truly is a win-win for the city and for our constituents. We're hoping to generate anywhere between $500,000 to $1 million from this amnesty program, collecting past due parking ticket fines, and residents can clear up debt and not have to worry about the risk of getting booted or towed. So we are going to be on Tuesday launching a searchable database by license plate, where you'll be able to go in, punch in your license plate, see if you have any outstanding tickets you might have forgotten about, or maybe your kid got and you didn't know about it. We will announce that database. In the meantime, you can email amnesty2020@syrgov.net. Again, that's amnesty2020@syrgov.net, or call 315-448-8483 beginning on Tuesday for information on our amnesty program. Great job to our finance team, our Treasury Bureau, and all the rest of the partners in getting us to this point. Staying on the positive news track, Syracuse Developmental Center. As a reminder, people may recall that just over a year ago, we seized the 48-acre property due to back taxes. We immediately secured the property and have been able to maintain that security. It's a large property. It's difficult to keep people out of, but we work really hard to do that in the interest of public safety. And over the course of that time, in addition to securing the property, we issued an RFP for a brokerage firm to partner with us to list the property. Through that RFP process, we partnered with Pyramid Brokerage, And through that partnership, Pyramid Brokerage has officially listed the property on their website. The website is pyramidbrokeragecompany.com. If you go on there and you search for 800 Wilbur Avenue, you can find that listing. If you're interested in the property, you have until October 15th to submit a proposal. And our goal is to get that property back into productive use as quickly as possible so it can add value to the surrounding neighborhoods and to the city. So good progress over at SDC. Also progress in one of our really important offices, probably never more important than right now, our Office of Accountability, Performance, and Innovation, or API. That's an outgrowth of what originally started as our innovation team. Really the two founding leaders of our I-team and API, Sam Edelstein and Adria Finch, did an amazing job building up that team, establishing a national reputation, and have built a really strong team of innovative people. With Sam and Adria's departure, we had an opportunity to look for new leadership in that office, and we found someone who we think is really going to help us take the API to the next level. His name's Nicholas, goes by Nico Diaz Amigo. We have appointed him as our Chief Innovation and Data Officer. He will lead the API office. He's a Harvard Kennedy School of Government graduate, which is almost as good as the Maxwell School, where I graduated from. Not too shabby. But we're really excited to have him, in addition to earning his advanced degree at Harvard. He was also a Harvard Bloomberg Fellow, has municipal experience as a fellow in Sioux Falls. He also worked in his home city of Santiago, Chile, and we're thrilled to have him joining us here in Syracuse, and again, building off of that great foundation at the API, and again, helping us, all of our departments, to be innovative, to continue to drive data-driven decision-making, and look forward to bringing him aboard. Census, something that we updated everyone on a weekly basis. It's been a while since we've updated the numbers. The good news is they've gone up. Bad news is not as much as we need them to. So the self-response rate is up to 52.5%. That's as of September 2nd. That's up 2.4% over our last report at the end of July. So that, again, is progress. We're trending right along with, and in some cases ahead of our upstate counterparts. Again, we're at 52.5, Buffalo's at 52.4, Rochester's a little lower at 50.1, and Albany's a little higher at 53. We all need to be better. We know how much is riding on the census. Since we last spoke, in addition to the self-response period, we do have enumeration happening right now. I've run into enumerators on the streets, knocking on doors, and that's helping. So again, you don't have to wait for somebody to knock on your door. If you have not filled out your census, go on my2020census.gov, or you can call 844-330-2020 and get that census filled out. As a reminder, back in 2010, we were at 61.7% self-response rate. So we need to get closer to that. Understanding we're in a pandemic and we've had a lot of challenges, we need to do better, and we're going to continue to try to do so. Want to briefly touch on, before I turn it over to the Deputy Mayor, our COMPSTAT crime report. As a reminder, the COMPSTAT reports are available. They're updated weekly on the syracusepolice.org website. Good news, we continue to be down overall year over year in crime, 9% compared to this time last year. That's the good news. The bad news, which we've talked a lot about, is that there are certain areas that have been really challenging for us. Certainly our homicides, even since this report came out, that had us at 21, we're up to 22 homicides this time last year, or at least as of Tuesday. We were at 16 last year. That's a problem, and something we're working really hard to address. Part 1 violent crime overall is 4% above where it was last year. Part 1 property crime is significantly below, 13%, although I do want to note, again, where you see property crime still being a significant challenge for us is with our burglaries. We've talked about different neighborhoods that have been impacted by the burglaries. I want to give Syracuse Police Department a shout out for really working hard to address that issue, and they're making good progress on that front. That's where we are with crime. With that, I want to again turn it over to the Deputy Mayor. We've talked a lot about police reform in recent months, and just because we haven't been here updating you weekly on it doesn't mean we haven't been working just as hard on it every day as we were the day that I issued my executive order. It continues to be a priority. It was before recent national and local events, and will be long after, and look forward to hearing from the Deputy Mayor with some updates on that. So come on up, Sharon. I'll just leave that right there.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the due diligence and work continues. It is a daily trek for us, and our commitment to police reform and the Mayor's executive order, which he issued on June 19th, included, as you know, 16 items to improve police accountability and police and community relations. And we issued a comprehensive timeline to address stakeholder and protesters' demands on July 16th. We are working hard and on track as we move towards those deadlines, and we are delivering on each and every commitment. We're going to continue to work hard to continue to meet the commitment that we made, that the Mayor did through his executive order to address police reform, working with internal groups, talking to stakeholders, and continuing this track forward. And I'll be around for other questions at the end.
Great, thanks, Deputy Mayor. Again, in addition to the executive order, we did, in responding to the 9 specific demands, did identify specific timeframes for delivering on those responses, which were very much aligned with our executive order. And thanks to the hard work of the Deputy Mayor, Syracuse Police Department, Corporation Council, we've been able to stay right on track with that. So again, we expect to continue to do so. We also hope to soon have a new webpage up that will allow others to be able to keep track of our progress as well. I will finish with an update on our Labor Day plans. We have been operating our Adopt a Block program now for a couple years, and we've continued to add new partners, but part of our Adopt a Block program is in order to practice what we preach. We have a team here in the Mayor's office in City Hall, and we have our own area that we focus on, but we also try to take it on the road sometimes. So this Labor Day weekend tomorrow from around 9 to 11, we're going to start at the corner of Butternut and Lodi up on the north side. With our team, we're inviting the community to come out with us to help clean up the north side. We've got about 20 volunteers already that are joining us, but others can as well. You can go to the city's Facebook page and sign up. And we would love to have you either there or helping to clean up your own block. So with that, I will open it up for questions. Microphone's in the back.
Hello.
Hey.
Concerning the events in Rochester, one of the things that I found a little odd, and I understand what happened, is that it had to go to the Attorney General's office. But this was an event that happened in March. It took till August, September till we actually found out about it. Any indication, are you aware of any similar situation happening here in Syracuse, that something we're going to find out that happened maybe 5-6 months ago?
So other than what we've previously discussed in terms of the current AG investigation ongoing with the police department, which isn't focused on one specific incident, I'm not aware of any other ongoing investigations, nor am I aware of all the specific details that are happening in Rochester, but obviously troubling on a number of fronts, and we're certainly thinking about our neighbors to the west. And
just a little follow-up, because we're so close to each other, has Mayor Warren reached out to you just in case they need additional backup possibly bringing in police from Rochester to just kind of help out?
We have not had, I haven't had any conversations with Mayor Warren specific to that issue. I did have a chance to speak with her briefly recently, but not anything related, just as friends and colleagues. We try to keep in touch between our fellow mayors along the thruway, Buffalo, Rochester, Albany. But no, there have not been any discussions, certainly that I've been involved in or that I'm aware of relative to law enforcement sharing among cities.
So a follow-up question to the Attorney General's investigation. If there isn't one specific incident, are there multiple incidents that they're looking at, or is it just a general overview, I guess, investigation into the department?
I think that's as good of a summary as I can say. Again, it's not one specific incident, but it's something that we see the Attorney General as a really important partner to us, and one that we are working with very closely, not just on the investigation, but in general. We've said from the beginning that when Chief Buckner came in, there were areas that we knew we needed to focus on and address through reform, and we've done that, and we're continuing to do that.
Got it. And just some community-based questions in regards to the officer involved last night. I know Chief Buckner is giving his presser later, but in your opinion, why does this keep happening in our community, and what can we try to do and prevent this from happening?
Well, sadly, this is nothing new. We live in a very violent society where I've talked about the availability of an overabundance of illegal firearms and how that contributes to the violence that we see in our community. So I think we're certainly all more people are focused on it than ever, which I think is a good thing. And I also think it's important that when we're talking about these situations, we're looking at the underlying conditions that lead to these situations, whether it be mental health issues, substance abuse issues. These are each one of these incidents is unique, but we have to try to take a look at the big picture. And similar, I think, consistent with the conversations we've had around the area of police reform, making sure that we are deploying the appropriate resources and the appropriate first responders to deal with people based on whatever crisis they're in at any given time. So again, I think that we can never lose sight of the fact that every one of these instances involves the loss of a human life, and every life is sacred, and we're going to continue to do everything we can to make sure that wherever possible we can avoid these tragedies, because that's exactly what it is, a tragedy.
And I know that you guys talked about the Syracuse police reform agenda. Would you guys be able to expand on kind of where you guys are at in that right now? And especially, I guess my overall question is, do you guys think you as a city are doing enough right now, or are there more steps that you think you could improve on, or?
Yeah, so Deputy Mayor, I'll offer a few thoughts, and if you'd like to expand, but we like I said, we laid out exactly, well, let me start with what we have been doing since the moment we walked through these doors, what we've been doing since the murder of George Floyd and the increased focus on the issue of police reform. And we followed through on our commitments. Some examples of that, we talked about making sure that information was publicly available to those that we serve, from the police union contract to all of our policies. So we have there, you can find that information now on the Syracuse Police website. Body cameras is another thing that we've talked a lot about, making sure that all of our officers are equipped with body cameras. Since I issued the executive order, we did bring in 113 more body-worn cameras that we expect to be on track to deploy by October 25th, which was the date that we had committed to. And there's a number of other examples. So again, we're going to try to create a clearinghouse, kind of a one-stop shop, so people can keep track, but we are literally working on it every day.
One last question. How about mental health resources, especially, with what we've been seeing going on in Rochester? Can you talk about what resources you're working on, what you have right now? Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of many of Chief Buckner's priorities coming in, was getting more officers trained in crisis intervention training. So I've personally attended at least a couple graduations where officers have gone through that training. We've increased the overall percentage of officers that have gone through that training. It's also addressed in our academies, but we are looking at ways to continue to build upon that, but also, as I mentioned, to better and more effectively engage our partners in the community, in the mental health community, that we can rely on to make sure that we're deploying the appropriate resources and ensuring that we have the right first responders at different incidents. So, we've invested more in this area, but it's clear we have more to do. It is backed up by the numbers that there were a lot of people that pre-pandemic were struggling with mental health and addiction that post-pandemic or since the pandemic hit have really struggled. We've seen an increase in overdoses, increases in overall challenges around mental health. So we need to do more than we've ever done before.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hi, Mayor.
Chris?
Have you reviewed body camera footage at all from last night's shooting?
From last night's, I have not. Chief Buckner will speak to it. I do believe that we do have body camera footage. I have not had a chance to review that yet. I intend to.
Okay. And going back to the AG's investigation, have you been briefed on any findings or results so far from that investigation?
Not personally. We actually, as a team, we're planning on getting together this morning to get an update. And with early this morning's incident, we had to reschedule that. But similar to the area of police reform, and we have a dedicated team consisting of the deputy mayor, corporation counsel, SPD, that is working on making sure that we're getting all the information to the AG's office for that investigation, and it's ongoing. So I have not had any update from the AG's office, and again, hoping to get an update soon from the team.
And just switching gears to the furloughs, I know you're talking with labor unions. Is there any update? Has anything changed in the course of those conversations about the plans for furloughs, or are you still on course? Yeah,
so there is a it's after 1:30. So my team is meeting with labor leaders right now. As I reflect back on the rollout, it was unfortunate that the communication between labor and our administration was characterized the way that it was. I am a constant learner in this job, and we went out of our way to make sure that the very first group that we met with on that Friday morning when we announced our plan was our labor leaders, and we felt like we had effectively engaged them. After the fact, we heard from them, and I think have some good perspective on where we could have improved that communication, and that's what we've done since then. So I feel good about where we're at. We are not in full agreement yet about the plans for each department or each bargaining unit, but I'm confident that we're headed in the right direction and we'll get there.
Okay. And last thing, just you said that you'll also be furloughed. Can you tell me a little bit about how that works? Will you be forced to take 2 days off a month? Will it be a pay cut? How does that work?
So I haven't specifically worked out my own furlough plan. As I recall, it equates to 2 days per month. Do I think I'll be working during that time? Yeah, I do. I expect to, but I won't get paid for it. And again, I think that that's appropriate given what we're asking everyone else to do. So I'll keep you posted on the details. Again, I haven't figured out what will happen on those specific days, but I suspect it won't be much different than any other day.
Thank you.
As far as furloughs, I know that Ryan on Tuesday his executive branch was given permission to kind of decide the course of layoffs. Have you and Ryan talked at all regarding, I know a lot of times in the previous administrations we've talked about consolidating things between city and county. Have you two talked about things that you can do as savings to save both city and county and maybe save a couple jobs?
Yeah, so we've talked from, even before the county executive was in his current role, and back when he was chairman of the legislature, we talked about where there are opportunities for shared services, for efficiencies. We've certainly continued those conversations, and we've had conversations since we've been going through our current fiscal challenges. I wouldn't say that the current crisis has necessarily significantly impacted or expedited that process. There are things, again, that we're focused on, areas that I've talked about before, like IT, where we are actively trying to share services. We continue to work with our economic development departments and our IDAs to try to align on policies and look at staffing. So all those areas are still being looked at. My litmus test for shared services and consolidation has not changed. The first question I have to answer for myself and my team has to answer is it in the best interest of the people of the city of Syracuse that we serve? I do think that there are opportunities where the answer will be yes to that, but the process hasn't significantly changed in light of the recent crisis.
Hi, Mayor. While we're on the topic of furloughs,
Sure.
Can you just confirm how many city furloughs there will be?
The numbers, it's over 400. I can't remember the exact number. 413 is where we were last at. This is a fluid situation. That may very well change slightly, but that gives you a sense of it. So 413 employees that will be furloughed, some more than others or longer than others. But on top of that, again, just a reminder that we're also freezing 150 funded vacant positions that we won't be filling. So that's also going to have a significant impact.
And then just heading into the Labor Day weekend, any concerns about large gatherings,
Sure.
addressing the public? What would you like to say?
Yeah, well, that again, these are the times when we're tempted most. I looked at the weather forecast, and it looks beautiful. We've all been going through a lot, and we all need time to rest and rejuvenate. And I'd like to think that we've all found ways to do that during this pandemic that are safe, and that's what we need to continue to do. We've seen our local numbers stay consistent, stay low, but we've also seen how quickly that can change. You look at what's happened in Oneonta. That is scary. Even our own recent scare with the fire department showed how quickly things can change. So if we let our guard down for a minute, we're in trouble. So we can't afford to, even on holiday weekends. So I just encourage everyone to continue to do what you've been doing because it's working. Continue to be safe. And I also do want to take a moment. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I want to acknowledge that why we do have a day off, or many have a day off, and that's because of our brothers and sisters in labor, and especially the essential workers that continue to work when the rest of us are putting our feet up. So I just want to acknowledge all of our partners in labor and all of those people out there working every day and night to take care of the rest of us.
One of the things I wondered, we have been focusing a lot on SU, and there have been freshmen there. Have you had discussions with President Lemire over at Lemoyne just to see that something that happened in Oneonta doesn't happen up near that area by Lemoyne and DeWitt?
Yeah, I talk to Dr. Lemire all the time, and she is very focused on it. Very focused on it. When I visited campus for our announcement on the internship program, I could tell she had one eye on me and the other one on the students walking by to make sure their masks were all the way pulled up. So I'm really proud of our local institutions and really appreciative of our leaders, Dr. Lemire, Chancellor Severud, Dr. Crable. We're lucky, really lucky to have those institutions, not to mention upstate. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to get up there to see our new SUNY Chancellor Malatras, but the fact that on his second day on the job, he's at upstate, I think really it should serve as a reminder to all of us about the gem and the asset that we have in upstate, led by an incredible leader in Dr. Mantosh Dewan. He's just doing a great job up there, and we are better off as a community during this pandemic because of Upstate's presence here, no doubt about it. And New York State is better off as well. So again, really, really appreciative of our academic and healthcare partners.
I do have one question for the birthday girl, if
Mhm.
if
Come
she
on
doesn't
up.
mind coming up. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
One of the questions that I had is regarding your ongoing negotiations with the groups that you were talking about.
Mhm.
I would imagine that when you first have the initial meetings, you know, there's this need to, you need to immediately do this. You immediately need to change all these changes. As you've met, has the relationship changed? Are they more understanding that the wheels of politics and government move much slowly than they may like?
The urgency of now continues to be the urgency of now. The urgency of police reform, as people are not just looking at what's going on in Syracuse, but watching the country and the world. So I don't expect that urgency to shift. And so we continue, what we have to demonstrate is that we continue to plow through. We continue. And to the point that was made around what we're addressing now, police reform has to be fluid. What is needed today, and events change all the time. New models come up, new efforts come up, new responsibilities will arise. So we always have to be fluid in thinking outside of the box and looking at what's available to us from other communities. The mayor always reminds us not to reinvent the wheel, but to make that wheel work for Syracuse. And so, no, the urgency of now remains the urgency of now. And it should remain the urgency of now because it's important to keep it moving. But we have to just show, and the public-facing website that we're putting together is going to help make sure that people see that progress is being made.
And I understand that you want to make sure that they're aware that you understand their concerns, but as you meet and as your relationship continues to grow, do they become more aware and understanding that it may take a little bit longer than, you know, because I know that about a month, 2 months ago, there was a push to get the statue torn down right away. Are these groups understanding that it may take a little longer, and how is your relationship with them gone as you go from meeting to meeting to meeting?
I mean, we're talking about two different groups and two different topics, but in general, we continue to push through and we continue to have conversations. I think people generally understand that government is a mountain that moves slow, micro inches, but we can't use that as an excuse to not move as quickly as we should. But I think in general people understand that, but when communities are more impacted than others, it's hard for them to take that answer as a definitive answer. And so we have to always be cognizant of that and be receptive to what they're saying, understanding that it does take time. Change doesn't happen overnight.
This can be for either of you. On the topic of the Columbus statue, we're about a month away from Columbus Day, when this always comes up again as a topic. Do you expect to have a decision one way or another prior to Columbus Day?
So we set up the schedule for the action group to be completed, for that process to be largely completed before Columbus Day this year. I can't say definitively what decisions or what actions will be made prior to that day, but it is my goal to have that formal process completed, and for people to have certainly a better understanding, a better sense of the process going forward. So there very well could be specific actions taken before then. Again, the process we expect to be done before then, but as I have continued to say, I want to be respectful of that process and those that are investing a substantial amount of time going through that process. I was involved initially in the first meeting, and I get little updates here and there, even when they're not meeting, there's emails flying around, and people are passionate and sharing information, learning from each other, and I expect that will continue to happen, and I'll learn from them, and I think, again, we'll have a better sense of where we're going by Columbus Day.
So is the ultimate decision yours alone? I know there's this group that's meeting and discussing it, and they'll present something to you or make recommendations, but, who has the absolute call?
So I'm smiling because that's it's a conversation I have a lot with my constituents, also with myself. I like to practice what I call deliberative democracy. I think it's important to allow those that I serve to be engaged in the process of decision making, and I use the information that I gather from those that I serve to inform my decisions. And so, oftentimes it's kind of ironic, at a time when we talk about when the issue of fascism comes up, right? And we certainly don't ascribe to those values, but sometimes what people are looking for is that, right? It's unilateral authoritarian decision making, and that's not my style. It's sometimes when decisions have to be made, that's what I'm here to do. That's what I was elected to do. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make decisions unless or until I feel like I have done my due diligence. And so I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but I think it's whether we're talking about police reform or the statute, sometimes people just want me to snap my fingers and make something happen. And sometimes that is what's required, but more often than not, especially the way in which I govern, it is a deliberative and a deliberate process. So to answer your specific question, based on the information that we've garnered, I do believe it is within my authority as mayor to change the physical makeup of Columbus Circle, including moving that statue if that's ultimately where we go. But again, it's not something that I take lightly or that I intend to do without continuing to engage those that are going to be impacted by that decision.
Very, very scholarly answer.
I wasn't going for scholarly, Chris. I was going for reflective. But either way, I'll take it. Everyone have a happy, safe Labor Day. Thank you.